Hi everybody, we're live. I'm just checking so I can read the comments at the same time. Super important. Yay, how exciting. So glad I'm here with you guys. Yay.
So glad I'm here with you guys. Yay.
Hold on. Whoops. Okay, there we go, done. All right, so today's story time with Audie B is on cruise ship life and all things cruise ships and basically my life on board before I became a rap artist. So I had a little teaser on there for you guys that I did put up a couple of days ago, and yeah, it's basically here to chat about life on board. I will put up a longer video so that you can hear a little bit of anecdotes and stuff. But in the last couple of days, I've received questions and answers from you guys. So I'm really excited to answer them. If you want to drop in your questions, I've got it on here at the same time so I can have a look and answer your questions live. It's going to be awesome. So let's get into it. So before you do anything, also subscribe, share around, and stay tuned for all the weekly lives. And always drop in your questions. If ever you want to talk about a specific topic, I'm here to talk about it, and so we can all have a chat and engage in it. So hi everyone who's joining in. All right. Let's get it. So cruise ships and cruise ship life. Basically on board, it's like a village on board. I was a crew member for 3 years on board cruise ships called Ponant. So it's really interesting because everything changes with what your expectation is. I always dreamt of being a cruise dancer, and then you get on board, and I guess it was one of a beautiful experience in my life, but you just don't really realize what working on cruise ships entails. So once you get on cruise ships, basically my first contract was in 2014. I remember auditioning for a cruise ship contract and I got it. And I actually auditioned in France and I got it. So I had to quickly run back to Australia, get rid of my car, get rid of my rent, and yeah, to get ready to embark. So once you get on board, you're basically safety first. So no matter who you are, you could be, the carpenter on board, you could be a bartender, you could be a dancer. They always say it's safety first. So you are a safety number. So I was 708 and then 710 on another contract. And we always have fire drills, so it's really important to have this safety number for fire drills. In case of an emergency, we have to pretend evacuate the passengers at every start of the ship. And it's funny because some passengers complain and they're like, we've been on many cruises before, so we don't need to do it. And we're like, well, we do this every week, guys. So, you need to do it. You always need to be prepared for an emergency on board the ship. So yeah, especially, in Antarctica, it's really important to keep up, basically these safety measures. And so my safety number entailed, evacuating deck 4, which is level 4 of the ship, from, this cabin to this cabin. And then basically, then having to evacuate ourselves. So once we evacuate the passengers, then we get to evacuate. But we don't evacuate on the nice little boats. We evacuate in like these little tents that we have to like hop on, and they just like drop you in the water, and it's like, see you later with your little food and, I don't know, canned whatever food. So yeah, the family life on board, it's like a village. So you've got all types of jobs and of positions. You've got the deck department, so that's all hands on deck. You've got crew who's doing laundry, you've got cooks, you've got waiters, you've got a nurse, you've got doctor, you've got dancers. So you've really got everything happening on board. But of course with that, you do need discipline. So yes, we do have our uniforms, and we had to have our hair attached in a certain way when we go into the passenger areas. And yes, that's really important, because then it means that, we also know what's going on. We're disciplined. We're on a cruise ship. We're not in a theme park where we've got the safety of the passengers to look after, and our safety. So yeah, it's not all fun and games, but everyone has their responsibility as a crew member. As you guys might have seen in the teaser, you would have seen that yes, no, we don't get helicoptered on to ship every day. We actually sleep in 2-3 meter squared cabins, where there are like portholes, and you can't really you know compare that to sleeping in passenger areas. We've got our own crew canteen where we eat. They're called crew mess, and that crew canteen sort of is like a hangout area as well as a crew bar. So we've basically, under the higher decks, we've got our own life happening underneath, where we've got all our cabins. I get to share a cabin, for instance, with like another dancer. So we were lucky to be sharing 2 people cabin, but some people share cabins with like 4 other people as well. So it's really difficult, sometimes to have your own privacy and intimacy. But that's also the beauty of it. You become like a family on board, right? So yeah, in the video that I'll be releasing, there'll be a lot more sort of anecdotes and things that happened on board. But what I would love to discuss is some of the questions that you guys had asked, whether it be a bit on Facebook and on Instagram, but mainly on YouTube, about just sort of what's life like on cruise ships. And so I guess my first question would be, the hardest part of working on ships. And I don't really know how to answer what's the hardest part about working on cruise ships, because every day is difficult for a reason or another. But then again, that's the beauty of it. So we're working 24/7 all the time, 7 days a week for 9-month contracts. For instance, Filipinos and Indonesians, notably, are on board for perhaps, I don't know, 13 months and then go home for 3 weeks. So yes, that's really hard for them. Hi. So that is a difficult part of working on cruise ships, is that you're on board for so long. You're working every day. You don't have a day off. And even if you do have a minute off, someone could call you or call your crew cabin and say, hey, we need you here. So come, hurry up and come here. We need you to do this. So it's hard because you're away from family. I can't speak about other cruise ship companies, but we didn't have free Wi-Fi on board for the crew. So it's really difficult to keep in touch with family and with what's going on land. We would run off as soon as there was a bit more time. We'd run off into the city, go to a restaurant, try out some of the local food, and then tap into their Wi-Fi. And that's where we'd sort of call our family and say, hey, we're here, we're having a good time, we're fine. But it's difficult to keep in touch with them, especially, for instance, when you're in places like Antarctica and things like that. So that is, I think, a hard part about working on ships and about working all the time, but it's also the beauty of it. Why did I leave the cruise ships? I left the cruise ship life, because I guess I loved it so much. And that's also the problem with it, that once you love it so much, it's like you don't know when you will be able to leave the cruise ships, because you just want to be on board so long. And when you come home, you get actually like land sick. So we get like land sickness, seafarers and sailors. We don't particularly like being on land anymore. We feel really uncomfortable. We try to say hi to everyone. In the teaser, I said, I would swipe like this and check if I had my badge on when I'd be leaving my apartment every day. So I guess the more that I was ingrained in the cruise ship life, I just thought, wow, I'm never going to get off, because I'm actually loving it too much. So I thought I need to get off the cruise ships, get a new challenge, and also also because I wanted to eventually come to France, pursue my career. So those were all factors that made me sort of say, okay, well, that's my time's up for cruise ships life and for being a crew member on board. I started working on the ships in 2014. So that was one of the questions, when and what did I do? I started working in 2014, and yeah, worked on there for 3 years. We did like back-to-back contracts. I was a dancer on board. I know on some other companies, like people say they're dancers and they're sort of like animators, but we were trained dancers, and we had shows every night in the theatre. You know, real sort of cabaret, contemporary, classical ballet, all different types of dance, and that was our job. So we'd be rehearsing during the day or in the mornings, and then have our show in the evenings. And for instance, if the ship was moving too much, we would you know, go down to the main lounge, which was one of the lounges, and you know, just chat to passengers or invite them for a dance, or you know, whatever the case was. Then sometimes we would, when it was very hot, so not in Antarctica, but when it was very hot, we'd sort of do like yoga classes or whatever dancer's speciality was. Like I loved like doing aqua gym, so also because I wanted to like get a tan at the same time, so I was like, I'm just gonna make the most of this and like get a tan as well as like working and teaching passengers how to aqua gym. So yeah, loved aqua gym, and did aqua gym with the passengers like once a week. So that was cool. That only happened obviously when we were on at sea, because usually when we're on port and passengers go out to do excursions and visit towns, that's when we usually rehearse, or we get the chance and privilege to have a day off, or the day, not the night off because we'd be working, but the day to go and visit whatever town we were in whatever place in the world, you know, tap into that Wi-Fi, call our families, or hang out, go shopping, you know, whatever the case was. What cruise ship route was my favorite and why? That's a really difficult question, because, for instance, my favorite cruise ship route I could have said was Antarctica, because it was one of the most memorable, humbling moments in my life. Antarctica was really beautiful, but then I think the mindset that I was in and experiences I had with people and populations in Asia. So, for example, in Indonesia, I got to meet beautiful people who I'm actually still in contact with, you know, at different ports and things like that. I guess those experiences were fulfilling in that sense. So, I would say a couple of my favorite routes were, you know, yes, Antarctica, but then again, having those beautiful experiences with people, such as, you know, with the routes from, for instance, we did like Singapore to Papua New Guinea, or then we did, you know, Hong Kong, around Japan, and we would stop by South Korea. I loved the South Korean vibe, so, you know, I'd always be looking forward to those cruises. So those are some of my, yeah, favorite routes, I guess. I had another question, which was how to manage emergencies, or if someone got sick on the crew. I guess I can actually speak by experience, because I was really about to be late on board, and I remember running back to the cruise ship and actually stumbling across like this whole thing on the wharf in Athens, not in Athens, sorry, in Greece somewhere. And so then obviously my foot was like, one of the toes was near broken. And so I had to get the doctor to see to it. Then the next day we were in Santorini, so I had to get x-rayed on that. And so I wasn't able to dance. So the dance did the show like without me, and I was just sort of there supporting them, I guess, for a week, but while my foot got better. But if crew members do get very sick or there are emergencies, we always can sail to the next port. And thank goodness for the beautiful doctors and crew, doctors and nurses on board who are always there to save the day. Yeah, so there is an actual mini hospital on the ship. So where there are the doctors, and they have, you know, even for passengers who might be very old aged and might have an issue, you know, we've always got the doctor, a defibrillator. Actually, it might be a bit sinister, but this is a bit of like a did you know, but we actually have a morgue on board as well. So we have our morgue, which is it was like at the very front of the ship, obviously in a crew access only area. And to be honest, like, yeah, I think in one of the ships they did have someone pass away. So that was a bit sinister, but most of the time it's just used as a cold room. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, we've got space for emergencies to cater for if crew members get sick, then obviously we can fly them out if it's, you know, too bad they can't wait a week, or if it needs to be attended to further. I had another question, which was, are there any strict rules on board for crew? Definitely. From going, as I was saying before, from the safety numbers to drills for passengers, to drills for ourselves, so safety drills and safety trainings for ourselves. Also having the badge on at all times, things like that. It's really important to keep that discipline vis-a-vis the passengers, but also vis-a-vis ourselves, because we are on a ship. And so, yes, there are strict rules. For example, we couldn't just go and eat where the passengers go eat, you know. We have to eat in our own canteen. We can't just sort of roam around and run around. We're here working. Yes, it's our life for 9 or 7 or whatever months, but we need to have this sort of discipline on board. Otherwise, it would just actually be, I am reading comments, yes. Actually, it would just be, you know, kind of weird, like, to just have no discipline on board. It just wouldn't work. You know, it's not a theme park. It's a cruise ship, and people's lives are also at stake. It's like, you know, flying a plane. So while it can be fun, and while there are fun experiences, there still needs to be sort of strict rules on board. And for example, yes, we do get warnings. For example, I know one of our dancers colleagues nearly got a warning because they were late on board and nearly missed the all on board time, and the ship was like, "Hi, we're gonna leave without you." Well, if he had have missed that, he would have just had to catch up to the next you know, port, catch up with us. So yes, I'm reading comments, but also looking at other people's comments that they dropped in before and answering them. So if you've got any questions, drop them in, and I'll answer them. It'll be my pleasure. So also there was another question that was about how much time we have on land. So it really depends, and mostly we have, mostly we have, time on land would be like 1 day. So we'd arrive at a port in the morning and then leave at night. Or sometimes we'd have overnights, and the crew would be allowed out, but there would need to be 1/3 of the crew that would need to be on the ship still. So basically, yes, we do have time on land. As a dancer, I had the privilege, and we had the privilege, to be able to go and visit on land because we weren't working during the day. However, people working during the day, for example, at reception or at the deck department or at the bridge or in the kitchens or in the laundries or as waiters, they don't have as much time. So even though the ship might be at port, a lot of crew members don't even have time to go out and be on land. So we do spend really most of our time on board. So and one last thing I wanted to talk about, you know, before I will release, don't worry, I will release a full video explaining all the anecdotes tomorrow or Tuesday, promise. But there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, was about crew welfare. And crew welfare and crew happiness is so important. So we had to organize, you know, secret Santas. We organized to redecorate the crew bar. We organized basketball games or karaoke evenings, and all of that's really important to keep the crew happy. When you've got a happy crew, you've got a happy ship. And I was so humbled to get elected crew welfare president, because it just meant that I was able to put in place things and events and moments that we could all share together and that would benefit the crew. And so we could all just really share those moments as the family that we had become. So that was very special to me. having this sort of human resources on board is very important, especially for crew members who are on board not for 3-4 months, but who are on board for 12 to 13 months, and it's very hard and it's very difficult for them. So I do miss them a lot. As I said in the teaser, that I did rap freestyle in my IGTV late last year, and it's still on there, so if you want, you can check it out on Cruise Ship Life. And just a little shout out about life on board. So yes, I look forward to releasing the video on all my experience in cruise ship life. I'm also glad I got to be on the live with you. So thanks to Medalist Punk and dropping in a comment, and Sodium Officiel and Malto Rubato and George. Yeah, so you guys are all here, so shout out to you guys. I do read the comments, so I am here, and also all the comments that you guys dropped in the last couple of days. I hope I was able to answer all of them. If you still have questions, and if we have to do another episode of Cruise Ship Life, then we will and we can. But next week will be more so on rap, songwriting, and inspiration, and how we can move forward with that, and how you guys get inspired, or how you guys can get inspired, and my experiences on rap and songwriting and working in the studio. So if you have any questions about that, drop it in. I always do answer my comments on YouTube, and I try to translate it in French. And we'll try to translate it in Spanish, but I do try as much as I can to translate those lives so you guys have an insight in your own language. And yeah, if you guys have any more cruise ship life questions, drop them in, and I'll add them into the video that I'll be putting out this week with all my anecdotes and experiences and little all fun things and bloopers, cruise ship life. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining into the live. Look forward to seeing you guys very soon. I hope I answered all your questions, and take care, stay happy, stay safe, stay positive, and catch you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and to share around the love, and let's keep this YouTube story time with Audie B community growing. Lots of love. Take care. Bye, y'all.